1. It was the summer of '78. Greece was the word. It was sunny and beautiful, and I, an at the time 13-year-old male, was sitting on the steps of the porch finishing up a model car, a flashy little orange Pinto station wagon. My brother, a jerk worthy of 1,000 revenges, had just been booted from the Air Force and had moved back to our house. My brother loved models. His room in the basement was full of Navy ships and big airplanes and all of these crazy race cars and monster figures. It was like the werewolf went to a car show on his dresser top. I was not a model guy, but my mom had taken my brother to the store to get a new model, and I tagged along and ended up getting the Pinto model. My mom pushed for it, excited how we could do them together. I put my model together on the porch steps, my parents came out and got into their car. A few minutes later, my brother comes out to join them, and as he walked by me on the steps, he stomped on my model, punched me in the head, and walked off to the car. Hopped in, and off they drove. I was alone for the afternoon. It was my time for revenge. My brother has spent my whole life ruining my toys. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world, even now when he was almost 20. He was worse than ever. He was the brother who would find the Christmas presents and purposely break mine and put them back in the box. He was a master at taking one piece that you needed for a game or model or a science experiment. When I got an electric train, he took the power pack. When I got a battery-operating moving robot, he broke its leg so it would only go in a jerky circle. That list could go on and on. I went to my brother's room, took every single model, many going back to when he was a kid, and took them outside to the dirt pile. I made a lake for the Navy ships and lined it with a tarp, built railroads and cardboard buildings and garages, and pulled up weeds and planted them like trees. I made an incredible little town with an airport and a dock and parking lots full of fancy roadsters and race cars. And then I put firecrackers in all the models and got a bucket of gas out of our tank and poured it down the mountain like lava. Then I burned it. The Wolfman and the Mummy and Frankenstein all met fiery ends. The Navy was sunk without firing a round. Not a single plane launched to fight back, and were all destroyed on the tarmac. It was a rout. When my family returned, I was ready to be in huge trouble. My brother saw it first and just stared at me. He was 6 years older and had bullied me my whole life, but at 13, I was almost as tall as him. But I was built. I moved 140-pound bales of hay on the farm. He didn't say a word and walked away. It was a turning corner for my life. My brother never hit me again after that. In fact, most of the bullying ended that day. He realized I was ready to start fighting back. I cleaned up the mess, and I don't know if my parents ever noticed or what, but nobody said a word about it. I've never done another model. 2. So here's the story. I coach a Sunday League football, soccer team here in the UK, and if you know anything about Sunday League, you know it's full of blokes playing awful football, mud, banter, and drama. Basically, it's 22 men pretending they're Premier League stars, but with beer bellies and questionable fitness. But it's a great laugh. Well, a couple of months ago, things reached peak drama when our rival team, led by their coach Steve Carter, names changed for anonymity, filed a complaint about me with the local county FA. Their accusations? They said I'd sworn at the assistant referee, who's also one of their players, threatened him and even pushed him. Naturally, I was devastated. As a family man, I pride myself on setting a good example for my team. The idea that I'd behave like that on the pitch, absolutely ridiculous. Now, to give you some context, there's a rivalry between our teams. I'm new to the area, so I don't know exactly why they hate us, but it's a small town, and everyone knows everyone, so maybe some ancient feud between players is still bubbling under the surface. Add to that the fact that the game was played on opposition's home pitch, which I can only describe as a cow field with goalposts, and refereed by one of their players, and you've got the setup for a Sunday League classic. When the County FA Football Association got the complaint, I knew they'd take it seriously. The FA doesn't mess around with this sort of thing. But honestly, when the complaint landed, my club was in absolute disbelief. Nobody could believe I was being accused of such nonsense, as I was immediately suspended until proven innocent. In the lead-up to the hearing, I made sure to prepare properly. I got all my players to write up detailed statements about what they saw and heard during the match. We threw everything in there, even the small things that might not seem significant at first glance. If they were going to come after us, we were going to make sure we presented a stronger, more thorough case in response. Basically, we decided to play their game, but play it better. Fast forward to the hearing a month or so later. I showed up acting like a defense lawyer. I was prepared with multiple witness statements from my team backing up my version of events. Their assistant ref, Dan Carter, who was supposedly the victim, ended up admitting that he didn't feel threatened by me. He also backtracked and confirmed I didn't swear at him, despite saying otherwise in his original statement. Nice consistency there, Dan. Even their referee, John, was asking why his own assistant was acting so confrontational toward me during the game. The best part? The referee didn't even bother to include the incident in his match report because he didn't think it was serious. I mean, how serious could it have been if the ref didn't even write it down? In the end, the FA found me not guilty of these serious allegations. I did get a small fine and a 2-match ban for stepping into the assistant ref's space, which was already backdated because I'd been suspended pending the hearing. Annoying but manageable. Here's where it gets brilliant. Their manager, Steve Carter, was found guilty of making racist remarks during the match and got slapped with an 8-match ban. Meanwhile, Dan, their assistant ref and player, and Steve's son, landed himself a 3-match ban. Yes, you heard that right. The same people who tried to get me banned ended up getting themselves banned instead. The whole match was an absolute farce. It was basically their pitch, their rules, their ref, and they still managed to turn it into a disaster. And the best part, they complained to the FA, thinking they'd teach me a lesson, and ended up with harsher punishments for their own behavior. So yeah, I'm calling this a Sunday League win for karma. 3. Several years ago, I worked with the most spiteful, troublemaking woman, Mary. She and I applied for the same promotion and she got it. I was okay with not getting the job because it really wasn't part of my planned career path. I just wanted the extra money. She was not in my chain of command, but she seemed to think her promotion gave her the right to treat me badly. She would make snide comments about me to my co-workers who, thankfully, knew what she was all about and would stand up for me. She would try to assign work to me. When I'd refuse, she'd run to our mutual boss and complain until she got her way, and I'd have to take on the extra work. I had suspected for a while that she was telling our boss lies about me, but had no proof, so I just kept my mouth shut. Eventually, I was promoted to another department. In the days before I went to my new job, it was apparent that someone was sabotaging my work. Data was changed on files I was working on, etc. Of course, I suspected her, but again had no proof. It all came to a head when she announced to the entire office that I was actually the one who was sabotaging the computer system. Of course, nobody believed her, but it was very upsetting to me. It got so bad that I made arrangements to go to my new job earlier than originally planned. For the next several years, Mary and I would have to work together on projects. I spoke to her as little as possible, and CYA was my motto. It was awkward but manageable. During that time, I received several promotions and ended up as the director of my department. There are about 50 people in my department, and I mainly have contact with only the supervisors. I guess I'm known as the one to give problem employees to. I either get them to shape up or ship out. But I was very surprised when HR approached me about taking on Mary, because she was about to be fired in her current job. Aww. My initial reaction was, hell no. I really felt I couldn't be impartial and give her a fair chance. But I pretty much wasn't given a choice. What's worse, I couldn't pawn her off to one of my supervisors. Because of the work she did, she would have to report to me. After resigning myself to having to take her on, I started dreaming of how I would exact my revenge. There were so many possibilities. I was almost giddy with anticipation. But the sweetest revenge was on her first day. I called her into my office to give her my come to Jesus message. Come, my pretty. She came in with the most scared look on her face. I thought she was going to puke. I decided To have pity on her and start out softly, I asked her if she understood how she'd ended up here. She replied meekly, "I guess it's karma." You could have knocked me over with a feather. I knew exactly what she meant, but I wanted to hear her say it. "What do you mean?" I asked. She then proceeded to apologize for everything she'd done to me, including spreading lies and doing the sabotaging herself. I was about ready to admit defeat in the revenge game, but then I thought of the very best next step. I told her ever so calmly, "You know that you could be fired for that." I let that sink in until I saw the beads of sweat on her forehead. Then I said, "But I'm not going to do that. Instead, you are going to decide your fate at this company. You will not be able to blame me for what happens to you because it will be up to you to succeed or fail." It felt so much better than using my power over her to get my revenge. She's still working for me, but I don't think that will last much longer. Not because she's going to be fired. She really has improved a great deal. But because being nice to me is so hard for her, I don't think she can stand it, and will find another job, hopefully at another company. 4. It's been well over 20 years, and this story comes from a friend of my father's. I'm telling it from what I remember, and because of the day in question, it's more than appropriate. Years ago, a friend of my father worked in a restaurant. At the time, his boss paid all the overtime. He liked to divide the tips among all the staff. He gave bonuses for sale objectives, etc., etc. A man who knew how to be a manager. There wasn't a single employee who spoke badly of him. Then the man, in his 60s, left everything to his eldest son and went into retirement. Typical sack of crap, arrives late, goes to the cash register to withdraw €100 to go out clubbing, doesn't do anything unless it's screaming his head off that the place needs more money. The problem starts when at the end of the month of transition, he doesn't pay overtime, doesn't share tips, let alone bonuses for sales objectives. We're talking about a large restaurant in Lisbon. He wouldn't starve for lack of money. The employees told him he had 1 week to pay the overtime, or he'd be in trouble. But everyone knew he wasn't obligated to pay tips or bonuses. Needless to say, he paid nothing. On Monday, he arrived at the establishment and found the door closed. Restaurant closed, customers at the door, employees waiting for him. He was told, "Do you pay the hours and tips or what?" Of course, Mr. Craphead started shouting that they were all fired. Months passed and the situation was taken to court. In court, it was decided that not only did the workers have the right to be repaid for their overtime hours, but they also had the right to have money for the unjust actions of a layoff. He went a few months without paying anything. When he went back to court, they gave him a final warning. Either he paid his debts or everything he owned would be seized. He paid the debts he had to pay, but he phoned calls and sent letters threatening the employees that things wouldn't stay like this. As my grandmother taught me, "Son, never mess with anyone because you don't know when and how you'll get into trouble." It turns out that my father's friend is crazy. Well, mentally unbalanced is putting it mildly. At the time, he had a dog that he loved, and the other guy had the bright idea of saying that he was going to go to his front door to poison his dog. To be on the safe side, he sent the dog to live with his parents, but he kept thinking about how to screw the other guy over. The police said that an unrecorded call would always amount to nothing more than one man's word against another's. The other employees didn't want to get involved. This man thirsted for revenge because he never again felt like having a dog in his house, knowing that that crap weasel could come to his gate and poison his animals. He later got another dog when he moved to a foreign country where he still lives today. New Year's Eve. Restaurant full. Locals were already saying that the quality was poor. It's funny how traditional Portuguese cuisine made by Ukrainians new to the country doesn't compare to food done by waiters with 15 years' experience. And the crazy guy goes there for dinner with 3 other friends and my dad. More than halfway through the meal, the table says, "He who laughs last."
"What the hell is this? A cockroach in the middle of the fries. The cockroach is fried. This has been everyone's French fries. I'm not paying for this."
With a lot more cursing. The unbalanced man had a fried cockroach in his hand. He got the cockroach in his backyard, took it home, fried the cockroach, and brings the fried animal in his pocket. Many people started shouting. Others ran to the toilet to vomit. The police were called to the scene. All the customers, or almost all of them, refused to pay for dinner. In short, the restaurant closed in 2 months. Conclusion: if your waiter works 2 extra hours, pay those hours and avoid the hassle. 5. My ex and I have been split for a little bit at this point, and we were establishing a routine. Things were rocky, but we were slowly making progress. There, of course, was drama. Both of us were getting back into the dating scene, and he was not happy with the fact that I started seeing someone, my now husband. He had also started involving me in drama with the women he was seeing. I was getting calls from the women at 3 a.m., and honestly, I was getting fed up. I was working 2 jobs and already sleep-deprived, as it is, while trying to deal with my own mental health, and I was just exhausted. I still had the key to his house, so frequently when picking up our son or doing exchanges, I would just let myself in after texting him that I was on my way over. He didn't always meet me at the door, as he was often gaming. He frequently just lets himself into my place as well, if he's being expected. I noticed coming in one afternoon that he had a massive puzzle spread out. The puzzle was also way too advanced for our toddler. He kept this puzzle on the counter for weeks, and I just observed what progress he was making. It was a several thousand-piece puzzle, and to be frank, it was impressive. Enter Pickles and Piper, my accomplices. Names have been changed to protect the technically, somewhat, mostly, partially innocent. Pickles was my son's pity. R.I.P. Pickles, you were the goat. Pickles was amazing and the best dog ever, but she was a thief and an expert counter-surfer. My ex would bring home food, and she could open the wrapper still on the damn counter and run off with your entire hoagie. Piper is a grouch of a tabby who only likes a handful of people. My ex is not one of those people. Both of these pets reside with my ex. One day, as usual, I let myself in. The house was quiet, rather than the vague murmurs of profanities being hurled on Discord and the click-click-click of his keyboard. My son was napping in the living room with Pickles, again a damn good dog. I was hunting down my son's stuffed lobster, and a little itch started, and I looked at the puzzle again. I walked back to the kitchen counter and without a second thought took a single puzzle piece that wasn't an edge and put it in my pocket. I poked my head into my ex's room and said, "Hey, I'm here to grab the child." Got some form of an acknowledgement, and skipped up the kid and went on my merry way. About halfway to my house, I rolled down the window and tossed the single puzzle piece into the highway, never to be seen again. I watched over and over next week or so as the puzzle grew, and then it appeared. Cap. Everything else was being filled in but this one little nugget. I watched as they got organized, filed, piled, and sorted in various arrangements around the kitchen counter. That one little missing piece stayed as the rest gradually was filled in, until it completely disappeared one day. Never finished. A new puzzle appeared shortly afterwards, again huge puzzle, several thousand pieces. Now this time I didn't get to do anything, but this puzzle also mysteriously never got finished. My ex was mumbling about how Pickles stole his McChicken, and he was pretty sure when she snatched the sandwich she grabbed a puzzle piece in the process. I said, "Aw man, that really blows. That one was really cool." So he got another puzzle and moved locations. Cue Piper, who I caught laying in the puzzle pieces in the box. I also noticed several pieces had fallen on the floor. The highway claimed another puzzle piece that day. And that's it. He doesn't do puzzles anymore. Thanks for listening. Special thanks to the real heroes, Pickles and Piper. May Pickles enjoy her field of soccer balls and McChickens. Piper is still going and is still a hater, but at least she tolerates me, so I'll take it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 396. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe, and please do support me on my Patreon page if you're able to do so. Little as $1 a month goes a long way. Okay. We've no other business today, I don't believe, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Today's question is, what little treats have you got your eye on for yourself in the coming year? I have a whole list of things. working on a little project regarding building a PC from used parts. That'll be an ongoing thing because I want to get it for the cheapest I can. I don't need it. I just want to know if I can do it for fun. And I'd like a projector for the bedroom. I'll either be that or a TV for the bedroom. I don't have a TV in there currently, but I'm about to restore my old laptop. Got the hard drive for that today. So that will be my media center in the bedroom on the rare occasions I want to crawl into bed and watch stuff and not in the living room. And what I do want, I'll probably wait till summer till I do this, a slushy machine. I've discovered they're actually very affordable. So I'll be looking into getting one of those. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one comes from Revenge is Ice Cream 226. Name a book you wish you hadn't been forced to read when you were in high school. I chose The Crucible because I had to study that for 2 years between English class and then in drama class. The drama was a bit more fun, but still studying that thing for 2 years, it's why I don't like The Crucible. It's probably something I would enjoy. But just after those 2 years of continual crucible, God in heaven, what is John Proctor? Annoyed, that's what he is. And today's answer comes from Silver Seri, The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. It's one of the most traumatic, depressing books I have ever had the misfortune of reading. Literally every character in the book dies, and at the end of the book, the last character dies with a peaceful expression on their face, because finally their life of misery is over, and death is the release from the horrors they had witnessed. The whole story reads as though everyone who suffers from the trauma of war is better off bumping off the mortal coil, either in war or self-assisted. Thank you very much, Silver Seri. I appreciate your very concise and thorough thoughts on the matter, and that is a book I think I will avoid because I try to avoid entertainment that depresses me. Within reason, obviously. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.